customer complaint process codified with actual appeals to the council. So we modeled that after what we have done successfully over at Sewage and Water Board. I really want to thank the Alliance who participated in both dockets on this, customer protections as well as this Chapter 158 rewrite. They dug in a lot. One of the changes that they proposed included adding refrigerators as life-saving medical devices, which particularly in our community where people rely on insulin is vital. So I want to thank the council members for their patience on this, and I want to thank everyone, Entergy, Delta, the advisors, my team, Ty and Bobby, who spent a solid 2 years on this. So thank you all.
All right. Do we have any I will take council comment at this time, so I guess raise your hand if you'd like to make comments, because we don't have Granicus. All right, Councilman Willard.
Thank you, Council President. And Aaron, to you and your team, I want to thank you for working so hard on getting this rewrite of Chapter 158 done. I just have a couple of comments that I wanted to make, because this is a big change that we're pushing right now. To say that it's been over 50 years since this code was rewritten just stresses how important this is. So, but since then, the utility business has become more complicated, which means the work of the council as a regulator has become more complicated. Now to add, we have another utility company in Delta, and so we needed to create a document that clearly lays out this regulatory process, describing how anyone who gets involved in that process and what they can expect. So my take of it, the rewrite protects the public and the council in a few ways. One, it allows us to assess financial penalties for misleading statements, which is a result of the paid actor scandal by Entergy. It prohibits substantive private written communication between parties in a docket. The reason that we make that change is because we want to keep those argumentative policy decisions and transfer of communications public. Second, this document clearly articulates a customer's Bill of Rights. This Bill of Rights makes commitments around what customers and the people of New Orleans can actually expect: right to safe and reliable services, the right to have a deposit returned if you pay your bills on time, the right to not have service turned off for non-payment if it's extremely hot or extremely cold, or, as Aaron mentioned, if you're in medical need. Third, the document lays out a customer complaint process. If those are violated, then, or you believe there's a billing error, you can submit a complaint to the utility company. If you can't reach a resolution with that company, you can submit an appeal to our Curo office. We are also asking for quarterly reports on those complaints, just so the council has more visibility into that process. So overall, this new code includes the regulatory process, the customer Bill of Rights, and the customer complaint process. We're also approving in this motion a new service regulations for Entergy New Orleans. A lot of rules here, but I want to stress that these are really coming from actions of previous councils beforehand. There's more work to be done. My office is looking at rate proceedings, regular rate cases, transparency platforms, so more people can be involved and understand, what we're doing on the Utilities Committee, just for greater transparency. And again, really just want to thank you, Aaron, and your team for all of your hard work on kind of putting this sucker to bed. So thank you, and thank you for the time, President Morrell.
Thank you. Mr. Graney, you're positioning yourself as to speak.
Nope, that was a good comment by my vice president.
Even though he didn't go to St. Aug. I do want to add one thing for the record. I know that there has been some concerns from some of the parties we regulate regarding the notice requirement that's been changed regarding when outages occur. The council, many council members, particularly district council members, are tired of chasing after when outages occur below the 500 number. And I will say that though there have been some last-minute attempts to provide some compromises and alternatives, I would say that that effort was doomed to fail insofar as after 2 years of doing this docket, any effort to do anything substantive within 24, 48, or 72 hours is just not appropriate. I really wish that some of the people that we deal with on a regular basis regarding customer service, like Jessica Williams, had been authorized to deal with negotiating a compromise with an extended period of time. I think there might have been some room to have some conversations, but with all the work that's been done over the last 2 years with parties like the Alliance involved, we cannot have parties come to the council right before votes with changes and compromises. It's just not appropriate. And it's not something the council really can ever do, because part of being a deliberative regulatory body, as the Vice President said, is transparency and the ability for all parties that are impacted, who are parties to the docket, to weigh in on anything substantive that could change the outcome of how we do regulation. I do also want to note that part of what makes, and I don't want to toot the horn of the city council as a regulator versus some other parties in the state that regulate, but what makes the council such a different regulator than groups like the PSC is that we do deal with the granular efforts of regulation. We don't just deal with widespread power outages or inconveniences that affect the city. We do it neighborhood by neighborhood. And to Aaron's point and to Councilman Willard's point, having the ability to look at our regs and say something like our refrigerator, which is a no-brainer, needs to be included in the code as life-saving, it's a no-brainer, but I look forward, going forward as a council, to revisiting 158 on a more timely basis, working with Curo to make granular and small changes versus waiting 50 years to do a massive change, which once again, I want to echo what Councilman Willard said, which is that I really want to thank Curo and Aaron and her team, because rewriting a 50-year-old section of code is not easy. Mr. George, you have a comment?
Yes, thank you. Jesse George on behalf of the Alliance for Affordable Energy. I'd like to thank the Council and Curo for undertaking this effort to revise the code. This was much needed. We support a number of these changes, including the clarification of the ex parte communication rules, particularly the reporting requirements for customer complaints, the resolution time. That's very important information. We would encourage you also to include reporting requirements for disconnections and arrearages. That's sort of been a mystery, how many customers are at risk of disconnection, how many are being disconnected each year. The council has occasionally asked for that information, but we don't receive it on a regular basis, and I would ask you to consider that inclusion. A number of things that the Alliance asked for under this docket were not included, and we would ask you to consider those as well, including a declaration of utilities as a human right in the Customer Bill of Rights. This echoes calls from members of Congress, including Representative Tlaib and others, as well as utility advocates in other states, recognizing the vital importance of these services to residents of New Orleans. We would also ask you to consider broadening the disconnection protections. We do have temperature-based protections in place, but too many people still fall between the cracks in between days when disconnections are prohibited or not. We would ask you to consider, as we did in our formal filings in this proceeding, at least seasonal protections for summer and winter that would cover the equinox or the solstice to the equinox, so that folks are protected during those entire seasons of extreme weather. We're experiencing more and more days of extreme heat and cold. Finally, we would ask you to address representation and rate proceedings for customers. The utilities have vast resources to represent their interests in rate proceedings. Ratepayers have nobody except the Alliance to represent them, and we receive no funding from any sources other than private.
Thank you. Do we have any comments for the, okay. All right, well, in that case, I will move that we vote on number 3, Councilman Vice President seconds. All in favor say aye.
Got to do a roll call.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Councilmember Hughes? Yes. Councilmember Morell?
Yes.
Councilmember Willard? Councilmember King? Councilmember McCarron?
Yes.
We have 5 yeas, no nays. The resolution will move to the full council.
Thank you. Next up, we have Resolution 4, which is the consideration of a resolution to update the council utility regulatory office budget and the terms governing reimbursement of regulatory costs from utilities. It updates the 2016 resolution, which reflected the annual budget of a small Curo, and allows for cost recovery from Entergy and Delta. Is there anything you want to add to that, Aaron? Go ahead. Mr. Wood?
I think this is the resolution I wasn't listed as an author on. Is that correct?
You're back.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right. I don't see any comment cards on this. I will move. Councilman McCarron will second. Roll call.
Councilmember Hughes? Councilmember Morell?
Yes.
Councilmember Willard? Councilmember King? Councilmember McCarron?
Yes.
We have 5 yeas, no nays. The resolution moves to the full council.
All right. Number 5, Councilmember McCarron.
Before we move, can I just say one thing? I'm sorry, and I'm new here, but I do want to thank Aaron, you and your team for your hard work. I really appreciate it. And I just want to say in my short time as a council member, Jessica Williams with Entergy has just been extraordinary in her communication with me and my team, and so just really wanted to publicly thank her for her hard work. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, and thank you, members, for letting me kind of talk on this. This is a resolution for West End development. There is a bill in the legislature that will be heard this week on Thursday, and that is to create an economic development district for West End. West End was once a major economic focal point for New Orleans. You may have recalled, growing up here, that there was restaurants on the water. I used to go there with my family, and unfortunately, it was devastated in Hurricane Katrina in 2005, which forced permanent closure of this historic area and businesses. The city has and continue to promote economic development. I've met with Mayor Moreno's administration, Jefferson Parish officials, and Representative Stephanie Hilferty, and continue to redevelop this area. Representative Hilferty introduced Louisiana House Bill 892 to further these by creating an economic development district in both Orleans and Jefferson parishes. The EDD would be governed by a board of 5 commissioners, and it includes the water bottoms along the parish line. And I want to be clear about this. This does not include, if you've ever been out to West End, it is only that parking lot area. It does not include development of the park and the green space. But this economic development district will reinvest in that area and the infrastructure for the boathouses and the infrastructure that is over there. So with that, I ask for your favorable support. And is anybody have any questions?
None. You have a card?
I do have one card from Charles Marcella. Charles?
Thank you, Council. I guess I want to start actually. In December, you had a meeting about whether or not this should go in the National Historic Register. And the title of the headline became Council Sides with Yacht Harbor Commission Denies National Park Nomination for West End Lakeshore Park. So we see in this bill and we see in the motion, we don't see the words West End Lakeshore Park. We saw in the paper last week, it says develop West End Park. So when we look back at the history of this is from 1928. It's titled West End Lakeshore Park. There are no commercial development in the park. This is, you can see it, it's all at the other end. It's at the New Basin Canal. On the other side, this is a hanging in Desi Vega's restaurant in Veterans. This is from 1940. This is the Rose Garden. The area we're looking to develop was a rose garden until the 1960s. So we call it the parking lot, but it's surrounded by 29 heritage oak trees, or 10 of them are heritage. And the report is most of those got to come down for this commercial development that's going to go in there. When we look back in time, and what you saw in December was this map given to you, you can see that the park has no commercial activity in it. So right now we're trying to justify the commercial activity that was on the New Basin Canal in the 1800s, when that was a train delivering freight in and out of New Orleans. Everything was built on the New Basin Canal. If we look back further, This is a picture of the rose garden. We had 5,500 rose bushes in there. It was done during the WPA era, and that's why the park could qualify for a listing on the register. This map here shows that all those restaurants, Brunings, everything we keep hearing about romantically, were actually in Jefferson Parish. Everybody for 110 years has respected that the park stays a park with 115 species of birds, including eagles and pelicans, and has not been developed. We're looking at change.
Thank you.
All right. Any other public comment?
Need a motion?
I will motion to,
I'll second.
Councilmember McCarron,
yes.
Councilmember King, Councilmember Willard, Councilmember Morrell,
Yes.
Councilmember Hughes. We have 5 yeas, no nays. The resolution will move to the full council.
Thank you.
Thank you. And next, we'll revert back to item number 2, which is E&O customer service interruptions. E&O will discuss the report of customer service interruptions between January 1st and December 31st of 2025. Do we have a presentation or anything, Aaron, on this?
I think it's a
Okay.
oral report.
Sounds good.
Good morning, council members. So it looks like, I don't think we have the presentation up, but there is a report that Entergy's been filing with the council for going on almost 10 years now.
I'm sorry, can you introduce yourself, Courtney? So we have some new members who don't know
Yes,
who you are.
yes, sorry. Courtney Nicholson, Regulatory Counsel for Entergy New Orleans, and I have with me Dan Calamari, Director of Metro Reliability for New Orleans. So we were asked to come here today to walk through what we call the Customer Interruptions Report, which, as I was mentioning, is a report that we file quarterly. It's been around for about 10 years in various forms. Over time, we've sort of adapted the nature of that report, and what's included in different resolutions and correspondence from the council and the advisors have helped us inform kind of what contents should be in that report. And we're also right now working with the advisors to look at further refinements of the report. So this is kind of the first time. The point is, it's a pretty routine filing that we've been making for years. It's intended to provide some data around the trends that Entergy is seeing in a given quarter, and the one that we'll walk through today is also looking at the entire year, the snapshot for the last prior year. So it's intended to share some trends that we're seeing, what the key outage causes are, and use that information to sort of inform kind of how we're reacting and what proactive measures we can take on the reliability front. So unfortunately, we don't have this deck up, but we can walk through it. It is a report that we filed with you all.
And council members, just to be clear, the report was posted and attached to the
That's
agenda,
right.
so it
That's
is
right.
available to the public. And I believe we sent it to you all just as to put at the top of your inbox for today's meeting.
So what we'll do today is sort of just kind of walk through the report, discuss what it's showing. I know there's some new council members that might be helpful to kind of even, talk about kind of what the intent is, how to kind of read it, and what some of the takeaways are. And I'll turn it over to Dan, and of course we can answer any questions about what's included in that report.
All right. Thank you, and good morning to the council. Appreciate y'all having us here today. And as we talked about, we'll be walking through that reliability report that for 2025 that we issued at the end of February to the council. Before we get started, our goal every year is to improve the reliability on our system. We make decisions based on trends, and we'll talk a little bit about that in our report. We also look at where we have seen multiple outages and high impact to our customers to decide where we perform work every year. just to back up a little bit, would like to just talk about a couple of key items about our system. So we serve over 210,000 customers. We have about 1,800 miles of distribution lines that have over 95,000 poles. Half of these poles Entergy owns, and the other half are owned by other utilities, and it primarily AT&T. But we have assets on all of these poles. If you, on top of just poles and cross arms on our structures, we also have 35,000 transformers that take that power and reduce the voltage to serve our customers. We also have many other components along a distribution line with jumpers, cross arms, ground wires that can all affect the reliability of our system and cause an outage. To put it in perspective about how much of these assets are, if you strung out our distribution lines from here, they would go all the way to the West Coast. So it's quite a bit of a complex system with a lot of components that we are maintaining every day. And as they're looking for the slide deck there, I'll go to the second slide if y'all had a copy of it. Whenever we have an outage, we have line crews dispatched to the location of the outage. Our goal is to restore the power as quickly as possible. In doing so, we also review any evidence that may have caused the outage. Sometimes the cause is very easily seen. It could be a tree limb that's laying on top of a down wire, and you know, we identify that as a vegetation-related outage. It could be a dead squirrel that we find on the ground where the outage occurred, and those are referred to our animal-related outages. In other instances, it may not be so obvious of where the outage may occur. We have to take the best information, and we do code it. And if we were looking at the slide, there's a list of categories on the left-hand side. We code it as one of those categories to identify where those outages may have occurred. Also, inside that report, we do show a 4-year cycle of those same categories to help give us more data, and if we are seeing some trends and where we can make prudent investments to improve the reliability. The format of the data is in a bar chart, and the bar chart shows the customer interruptions, and we did see more impact last year than we had seen in prior years. My opinion, my professional opinion, and in time I've been in the industry, the weather has played a significant role in the way our system performed. And, you know, winds, thunderstorms, extreme hot and cold temperatures affect our system. And when we see a drastic change in these types of seasonal environments and climate changes, it can have an immediate impact on the way our system performs. So you may ask, you know, how do we proactively use all of this information? And we're strategically making decisions from it and where we should perform reliability work. And in mid-2025, we did see an uptick in our customer interruptions. And we made some changes to our plans. We inspected some additional distribution lines. We identified some additional work that we could perform to improve certain areas of our system that were not performing as well. We also worked with Parks and Parkways to address some vegetation issues with some additional spot trimming in specific areas that saw an uptick in vegetation-related outages. We Also, at the same time, late last year, we commissioned what we call self-healing networks on our system. A self-healing network is smart technology that is a series of components along a distribution line that can automatically detect an issue. It can isolate the issue and keep customers with power and as minimum impact as they can. This is an improvement that we're doing. We don't have them across every feeder or every area of our system, but we're slowly expanding our technology and improving and lessening that impact. And so one additional thing that we added to our reports, and I think it was about the third quarter, was a quarter-over-quarter comparison to a prior year. And, you know, our outages will definitely be driven by seasonal impacts. And I'll touch on a few of these and some improvements that we're looking to do in these areas in 2026. So in last year, in the fourth quarter, there was an uptick in vegetation-related outages in Mid-City, the Carrollton area, and also the Black Pearl neighborhoods. That's where we went in and had some discussions with Parks and Parkways. We got some very experienced crews that can do vegetation trimming that was healthy for the trees, but also would improve the performance in these areas when it came to vegetation. This was in addition to our normal trim cycle. We have a robust vegetation trim cycle where we look at all feeders on a 2-year cycle. We did see an increase in schedule interruptions in 2025, and a lot of this is driven through our reliability work, some work, and our resiliency work that we're doing. There is certain type of work that our linemen have to do where we can't do it with energized work practices. It's not safe for them to do it in that manner, so we do have to schedule an outage to perform that work. We provide notification to all of our customers well in advance of those outages to inform them of the work and why we're doing it. And we do avoid taking outages in extreme hot or cold temperatures. So we will see an uptick in scheduled outages during the milder times of the year, your spring and your fall time, as it's reduces some of the impact to our customers then. Lightning in the third quarter, we saw a height of lightning strikes on our system. Our reliability programs in 2026 are designed to improve performance of our system during thunderstorms. Part of our reliability plan is to improve what we refer to as basic insulation level. We're increasing that value on our structures. What that means is we're installing longer insulators, fiberglass arms versus a more conductive type arm or steel arm. Also, the fiberglass arms last longer than the wooden arms as well. We're also installing insulated ground wires. These are wires that run up and down the pole for the safety of our system and also to keep the voltage on our system at the right levels. We're insulating that to prevent an animal from touching a conductor and this ground wire in certain cases. We do have animal-related outages, and in 2025, we had 3 events that comprise most of those outages. We do have mitigation measures that we install on our system in above-ground vaults or in our substations, but it's very difficult to deter every animal-related outage. And moving on to our equipment-related outages, we do have an older system across many of our the system in the United States. But when we have to contend with animals like rodents and snakes, when we have vehicles hitting our poles, we have thunderstorm after thunderstorm throughout the year, it does affect the overall performance of our equipment. Our equipment is not just limited to poles and cross arms. We have over 30 different components on a pole or inside of a distribution span that could cause an outage. And our engineers are constantly looking at our standards to help reduce a number of those components on our pole to make it more reliable. Less stuff to break. When we have developed our 2026 reliability plan, we have paid particular attention to replacing aging assets in areas that have had multiple outages. As I talked a little bit ago, we are looking at the modern technology of self-healing networks to continue to install them, and also we monitor those weekly to ensure they're working properly. And if you want to go to the next slide. So the next slide is the next two slides are two industry indexes that calculate how our system is performing. The first one is referred to as SAFE, which SAFE is the System Average Interruption Frequency Index. And when you look at our number here, on average, our customers saw between 1 to 2 outages in the calendar year last year. If you go to the next slide, it is the SAIDI, which it's the System Average Interruption Duration Index, which here, on average, our customers saw in total 163 minutes of a power outage. And, to kind of, what do these numbers mean at the end of the day? If you think about how many minutes you have in a calendar year, which is 526,000 minutes, for the most part, 99.96% of the time, our customers are with power. And that just kind of wanted to equate, we're working through reliability and trying to improve it, and our customers are still seeing a good performance and power lasting there. And if you
just to drill down, just to make sure y'all are understanding, so we have the two metrics of safety, just looking at the F, that's the frequency, how many times it's measured in the amount of customer interruptions, so how many times a customer is out in a given year. And SAIDI, looking at the D, is just the duration, if there is an outage, how long that outage is occurring. So we're tracking all of those metrics to look at our performance and evaluate where opportunities are.
Okay, thank you for the presentation and going through all of that. Councilmember McCarron for questions.
Thank you. So did you know that E&O is probably among the worst in the country for reliability? In fact, like your SAFE score is in the 4th quartile. It's worse than Entergy, Louisiana. So I have a lot of questions about what you all are doing proactively to improve this, because it's worse than last year. For equipment, we're the highest it's been since 2022. What are you all doing as far as fixing, going out and seeing poles that are rotting, cross arms that are not working, arresters? That was something with a couple years ago that there was a manufacturer issue. What are you doing proactively with your operations and maintenance budget to improve this? Because while customers may have been out, however many minutes it says, that number of minutes for a grandma in Holly Grove that needs oxygen could mean life or death. And we've got to see improvement on this. So what are some things that you're doing to improve and go out and actively assess poles and cross arms?
Yeah,
And then I'll
so-
have some follow-up questions on
Sure.
some other things.
So we're using our outage data to look at where have we had multiple outages, high impact to customers. We go out there, once we identify those sections of our distribution lines, we physically send what we refer to as our reliability servicemen that are trained to go out there and visually inspect and also use thermal-rated cameras to identify any connection or switch that may have an issue on it. On the substation side, we also inspect our substations with technicians looking for opportunity for fixing those types of arresters that you refer to. We've seen a great improvement in the substation arrestor program, and we will be completing that program this year with 400, I think it was 468 arresters that we will have replaced between late 24 and the end of 2026. Jumping back to the distribution side, so as we inspect the lines and identify opportunities to improve on our system, we design that out, and then we have crews go out there and make those repairs. We also have a wood pole program that inspects, treats, and identifies wood poles that need to be replaced. As mentioned earlier, we own about 50% of the poles. We have this inspection cycle on a 10-year plan where we do about 10% of our poles every year through this inspection. This year, on top of just making repairs to aging infrastructure, we are trying to take a holistic approach when we go into an area to perform maintenance and look at vegetation-related issues, if we need to do some spot trimming. If we also are looking adjacent to those identified feeders to see, hey, has something else in this area, in this same area, didn't perform as well in the last 12 months, we are bundling that work as well to take a holistic approach and improve in that area to prevent not only equipment-related outages, but something else from occurring that could just have the same impact to a customer as, a cross-on failing.
All of this seems very reactive, though, to where you're seeing things. So, like, for example, for vegetation, it was basically the same, if not a little worse than last year, that you had vegetation-related outages. And I know you said that on the quarterly basis you go out and you do your spot trimming, but what are you doing consistently throughout the year to go and inspect areas for vegetation and making sure that they're not impacting the lines?
Yeah, so we do have a normal trim cycle that we follow every year, and we do about 600 miles of overhead and 600 miles of on the following year as well. And we have about 1,200 miles of overhead power lines that equates to that. So our trim cycle is our normal where we're out there inspecting and identifying things, but when we do see a specific area with some trends with vegetation, that's what prompts us to do the reactive trimming where the spot trimming comes into play.
And do you go back and reassess the area for after you do these things and to be able to show, like, we did this spot trimming and this is, we no longer have a vegetation-related outage?
Yes, so we do. We compare what, how our system is performing post this work. Weather conditions, if you have milder weathers, it can show, hey, we did a great job. If you have more of a thunderstorm and wind, it may not show that the work immediately addressed things. So sometimes to really show a better how well it's performing, it takes, some time for various weather conditions to roll through to really show that we have a true impact. So we we monitor it real time, but then also we look at it from a longer duration as well. And if we don't see the right trend in the better direction, we will go figure out, hey, do we need to improve more in that area? Is something else wasn't identified originally and conditions changed and we need to do some more work?
Could you tell me how many poles you replaced outside of the resilience funding? How many poles did you replace last year using your own operations and maintenance budget that ratepayers already pay into?
Yeah, so I'll answer it a couple of ways. So we actually inspected about 8,900 poles. Those inspections also included some treatment to prolong the integrity of the pole. So it's very similar to like termite treatment at your home. And then on top of that, it identified 150 poles that we needed to replace through that program. And that's an ever-living program that we will, continuously get information back from our contractor that's inspecting it, and we're drawing up those jobs and replacing them.
So did you replace all 150
Yep.
poles that
Yes,
you
ma'am.
identified? And how bad of a condition does the pole have to be in order to be replaced through regular maintenance?
Yeah, so there's a criteria that they follow. If I don't have the exact percentage of degradation, and maybe we could just follow up at another time with that. But there's a criteria that our pole inspectors use to determine, can it be treated and sustain where it's at, or does it need to be replaced?
So when I did my Light the Night walk in Holly Grove a couple weeks ago, Barry from your company came. He was wonderful. Very glad that he came with us. He identified several poles, I think, that were leaning or not, so didn't look so great. What are you all doing to replace those types of things? I mean, something that can show direct impact to people in those communities that you all are actively seeing what they're seeing and then replacing those poles.
Yeah, I mean, if there is something that it needs to be replaced, we will bring it to the front of the line. A leaning pole, it sometimes requires replacement. Sometimes it may not be where it needs to be replaced yet. But we always are looking at feedback from customers, from our inspections. Every time we're riding to a job site, we're looking, at the condition of our lines, and we're identifying things that we can replace, and we're just not waiting for something to fail.
So on the lightning issue, and then I'll turn it over to Councilmember Willard. I know I'm taking a lot of time, but on the lightning issue, significantly big number of lightning issues from last year. Last year, it was 2024, it was 15,000 outages, and this year it was 46,000. I know that rainfall and lightning don't really correlate necessarily. However, we did have fewer inches of rainfall last year compared to 2024. So, are the systems just not built to withstand lightning strikes as much as they did? Or, can you kind of go through what's happening here? Because I think, with climate change obviously affecting the city, we're going to have maybe lower rainfall but higher intensity thunderstorms at short periods of time. But if our system is not built for that, then we're just going to continue seeing these numbers go up with our equipment failures.
Yeah, so we are taking that data that we saw with the lightning and the lightning-related outages, and we are incorporating that into our designs. So we are putting in taller insulators that increase that insulation value from our energized conductor to some other component that could cause an outage. We're also increasing the spacing, so our fiberglass arms are about 2 foot longer than our wood arms, which allows us to space the wires on the pole further apart to give better performance during those thunderstorms. We're also, I talked about the insulated ground wire. When a lightning strike hits a power line, it induces millions of volts, and it's got to go somewhere. And having these added precautions and added assets on our system will help to prevent that. Now, an outage from occurring. Now, repeat hammering on our system can degrade some things sooner than what the actual expected life expectancy is. And watching our outages, seeing if there is a repeat situation occurring or a certain type of outage, we're going back out there and doing some patrols with our thermal cameras to see, hey, did we degrade a connection? So, you know, when one outage you may have a broken cross arm or a pole may have caused it, but in some cases it's just one little connection that caused that outage. Those we're trying to find with our thermal cameras, because we're at the point where we got to do even surgical approach to finding where these outages may occur and to prevent those future ones from occurring.
Okay. I mean, look, some final thoughts that I have about this, because it doesn't seem to be getting any better, and you all are going to come to us, you know, later this year or next year to potentially ask for rate increases. You're going to come to us and ask for money to do resilience work, some of which should just be done with the money that you have for your own operations and management. And ratepayers right now are feeling the effects of their energy bill, their Delta bill, their sewage and water board bill. So how can you ask us, the regulator, to increase your rates if this reliability that people depend on isn't getting better?
So I can answer that. We haven't made an ask to increase rates related to reliability, but we certainly hear the concerns that you all are raising, and you know, need to work closely with the council and the advisors to understand what level of investment might hit the right mark. Obviously, some of the things we're seeing, as Dan was mentioning, there's a correlation between the sort of stressors that we're seeing on the system and how that affects the equipment. We have an aging kind of infrastructure, just the nature of the business that we are in. It's a constant stream of infrastructure upgrades. So we'll have to manage affordability. That's always top of mind for us as well. So thinking about how we can make sure that customers are experiencing the type of service that they expect and the type of service that the council expects, and doing that as affordably as possible is always the goal. So getting back to something like a leaning pole, for example, I mean, part of the regulatory compact that we're under is to provide reliable power at the lowest reasonable cost. So there's equipment that, you know, may not be pretty, but it's still serving power. So we're not going to, you know, gold plate our system and replacing things that won't add, you know, incremental significant value to customers, but also recognizing that, you know, there are proactive measures that we want to take and that folks expect us to take that we can prevent downstream outages in the future. So I think that us working together to make sure that we are understanding, you know, kind of what we're seeing to communicate that to you all, and understanding from you all what expectations are, and then we'll figure out what the right level of investment and the right plan is. But we have, you know, reacted, as Dan has mentioned. We're constantly looking at what we're seeing on the system, where, you know, the nature of reliability planning is a combination of reactive and proactive measures. So we're trying to hit that balance within the rate structure that we have today, without necessarily coming to reset those rates. So we're doing what we can under the structure that we have.
Yeah, I think what would be helpful would be similar to the resilience report that you provide to us, like, we replaced this many poles and we did this, we did that. You know, what are you doing as far as reliability every year? To how many poles did you replace? How many arms, you know, cross arms? How many of these things? Because that's kind of what I'm asking, like, what are you doing from the reliability standpoint to improve?
Right, because this is just showing data, and then okay, now what are you doing with it? And we are using it. It may just not be translating, you know, in the report that we're filing. So certainly.
Thank you.
Bear with me for 1 second. My document just went away. Thank you, Councilmember McCarron. Those are some really good questions. I guess I'm curious to know about the steps we take to sort of prolong the inevitable. You talked about treating certain poles instead of replacing them. How much is the treatment for those poles cost, and how much longer do we extend the lifespan of a pole?
Yeah, every pole is going to vary, but the treatment is there to prevent the bugs, the termites, from eating those poles and degrading them.
Okay.
If they can determine that the pole has solid integrity, they're going to treat it, and that pole will stay in good condition, just like our homes are.
Is the treatment something that you just do for every pole across the system?
So
or
if a pole is required to be replaced, it does not get treated to keep those chemicals from going into the poles. But and that's why we have a priority to replace those poles that are identified, to work through that design and replace them proactively as soon as they're identified.
Okay. Just to follow up on some of what Councilmember McCarron was talking about. So last year, more than 300,000 distribution-related customer interruptions. Actually, you know, based on the information I have, our worst year since 2017 in terms of the number of outages and the duration of outages. On average, our households in New Orleans experienced 1.44 outages, and the duration of those was for almost 3 hours long. According to federal data, the median number of outages per customer per year across utility companies nationwide was around 1. So we're about 44% higher than that. The median annual duration for outages last year for utility companies nationwide was about 100 minutes. And we were clocking in at 163 minutes. So we did much worse than utility companies nationwide. Now, you know, some of the outages were planned outages due to system upgrades. Some of it was vegetation. Some of it was animals. The lightning strikes, obviously, you know, wreaked havoc in New Orleans for a period of time. But by category, the most outages were attributed to equipment failures. And that is something that we've seen, see if we look back. So 23, we made significant progress compared to 22. I mean, you had about 20,000 fewer outages based on equipment in 23 versus 22. And then you jump back up in 24, and then we jumped back up last year. Is there any reason for these changes in numbers year over year?
Yeah, one of the things that we tried to, I should let Dan answer this, he's an expert. But one of the things we're trying to articulate, and it's really hard because it's more anecdotal, but that correlation between lightning and the equipment outages, I mean, if you look at the lightning in 23 and 24, it's much less significant. We saw like a 3-fold increase in lightning in 25. So there is a direct correlation between lightning strikes, the repeated type of lightning on the system, and sometimes there is an outage that's latent that may not be directly tied, that is directly tied to the lightning, but may not happen at the same time.
So it weakens the system?
Yeah, it's this degradation that we're seeing, and so it won't get coded as lightning if it happens 2 days later.
Have y'all...
It would be, you know, attributed to the lightning. So there is a correlation there that we're trying to articulate and make sure folks understand that, and that's what Dan is saying. There are some proactive measures that we can try to go identify certain types of equipment that is more likely to be susceptible to failure after the fact and try to see if we can find those.
So, I mean, over the last 5 years, we've seen just a flurry of weird weather-related events. I mean, lightning storms, tornadoes. Do you have a system in place to where when there is a major event like lightning strikes concentrated in District D, or, you know, high winds, possible tornado that runs through portions of New Orleans East, do y'all have like an infrastructure audit or assessment that occurs after the fact to look for vulnerabilities?
Yeah, so after every outage, we're patrolling it to find what that cause was. We're taking some added steps this year, not only to look at what caused the outage, but is there some type of latent issue? And what we have found is there's connections that from the naked eye, you can't see anything wrong with them. But with the thermal camera that we're using, we can see that something is heating up there, which can proactively have us go out there and replace it. And if a connection just opens up, there's nothing laying on the ground, there's nothing visibly maybe for our customers to see, but just a small connection open up could cause an interruption to our customers.
Okay. And I know Councilmember McCarron was talking about your operations and maintenance schedules. Do you have on hand right now the total amount you invested in routine maintenance last year and how that compared to previous years?
I don't think we have.
Report, but we do have that information. And that's usually part of what, so we're filing our FRP and preparing that information. So we file our FRP at the end of April, so it's due April 30th, I believe. So we'll have all that information embedded there. We're compiling it. Unfortunately, it's not included in this CI report, but we certainly can provide that to you, and we're gathering that information.
Yeah, I would like to know, how much you spent on maintenance, kind of reactive and proactive maintenance last year and how that compared to previous years. I would also like to know how much of that budget goes to inspections, repairs, and replacements of existing equipment.
Okay.
So that's something else that I would like to see. I think as we move forward with this utilities committee, we're going to have to really pay attention to the reliability standards because despite being 44% higher on the number of outages nationwide, and despite having average duration of outages significantly higher than the nationwide benchmark, you guys still came well under the reliability standards. So I think we need to have some conversations about that as well.
Yep, and of course we're not, just planning to the standards, so we never want to communicate that, but we did exceed the standards as you mentioned. But obviously our goal is to keep the lights on. I mean, we're providing a service to customers, and that's, how we're measuring ourselves as well. So certainly looking forward to working with you, and reliability is of the utmost importance to the company as well.
And I know earlier this year we had kind of like a period of outages that were happening throughout the city. Something else I would like to know as soon as you can is how are we tracking as it relates to outages in Q1 of this year compared to last year?
We do know that, and that just kind of underscores
Okay.
the weather implications. I think we're trending much better than we were this time last year, but again,
Okay.
weather last year was out of the park, right? So,
Mhm.
so now we have very mild weather. So there is that direct correlation that I was mentioning. It's just the nature of the area that we live in, and we're trying to do our best to make sure our system can withstand it, and we're proactively identifying the areas where there are stressors.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming down today. Any public comment? Jesse George?
Yes, thank you, Jesse George, on behalf of the Alliance for Affordable Energy. First, I'd like to thank both of you for your very thoughtful questions and comments. As you've noted, the current reliability standards that Entergy is subject to are the result of an investigation that first began in 2017. Here we are nearly a decade later. We've had these reliability standards in place for 3 years, and outages are on the rise and driven largely due to equipment failures, which in our view is evidence of poor maintenance. And we know that Entergy has boasted openly about not spending maintenance money that it collects from ratepayers on maintenance, but rather using that to increase dividends to shareholders. And we'd ask the council to take a look at that. Councilman Willard, I appreciate your allusion to strengthening the reliability standards. This is something that the Alliance has been pushing for years, and we would ask you to seriously consider that. We would also argue that the council should not even begin to consider this $400 million application that Entergy has pending for storm hardening projects until at least the investigation that the council ordered last year into Entergy's reliability is complete. I would just note, too, that this week is the board week for the Mid-Continent Independent System Operator, which is happening right here in New Orleans. This is the independent system operator that governs transmission planning in the region that Entergy New Orleans is a part of. This would be a great opportunity for you as council members, as regulators, to show that you are serious about the reliability and resilience that transmission planning can bring to New Orleans. There is an open board session on Thursday from 8 to 11 a.m. at the Marriott Warehouse Arts District on Convention Center Boulevard. I would encourage you to attend that and actively engage in that process. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. George. We don't have any more public comments. I want to thank everybody who came out today for participating in this meeting. I hope you guys have a great day. At this time, the meeting is adjourned.